Hey, welcome. Today we're going to dig into a really powerful idea. What if you could stop feeling like life just happens to you and instead you could become someone who actively co-creates it? We're going to look at some universal keys that can help you unlock that exact potential. So, let's just start with a question that I think a lot of us have probably asked ourselves at some point. Have you ever just had that feeling, that nagging sense that your life isn't quite going in the direction you'd always hoped and dreamed for? That it's not quite lining up with what you imagined? Right. That feeling of being totally adrift, it's often described as being like a leaf in the wind. And honestly, that's a perfect metaphor for what it's like to be stuck in a reactive state, just getting blown around by whatever comes your way. And this really sets up a powerful contrast, doesn't it? On one hand, you've got the reactive being. This is the person who's just tossed around by circumstances, right? Maybe complaining a lot about the hand they've been dealt. But then on the other side, you have the co-creator. Now, this is someone who grabs the reins, who is empowered, and who actively directs their own life. And what's really fascinating is this idea that for a huge chunk of history, humanity as a whole has kind of been living in that reactive state. Okay, so if we feel reactive, if we feel like that leaf in the wind, does that mean something's wrong with us? Well, the answer here is a really clear no. It's not about some flaw in your character. It's much simpler than that. It's just that we've forgotten. We've forgotten our true nature. So, what is that true nature we've forgotten? Well, the idea is that at our core, we are hardwired from the moment we're born with these incredible divine qualities. Things like infinite love, mercy, compassion, forgiveness. I mean, just think about a newborn baby, right? That total innocence. The argument is that as we grow up, as we get caught up in our 9 to 5 existence, we lose touch with these incredibly powerful gifts that are already inside us. And that brings us to this quote. And I really want you to let this one sink in for a second. You are already enlightened. You just simply aren't aware of it. This is so, so crucial. This isn't about some long journey to become something you're not. No, it's about rediscovering the divinity that's been there, inside you all along. Okay, so the big question is, how do we do that? How do we actually rediscover this forgotten part of ourselves? Well, the answer lies in this really powerful metaphor. The idea that we already have the keys to life right here in our own possession. Yeah, the idea here is that we already have all the tools we need. We're holding these keys, keys that can unlock the doors within us and help us discover the mysteries of our own essence. And these keys, they basically come in two forms. They're called the divine rays and the universal laws. So first up, let's talk about these rays of life. And these are really those divine qualities we were just talking about: patience, compassion, love. Think of them like the rays of the sun. They're the essential building blocks of all life. They provide that warmth and energy. And the whole idea is that just like the sun contains all of its rays, we contain all of these amazing qualities deep down inside us. Now, along with those rays, we have the universal laws. And it's super important to get this. These are not some kind of rigid, restrictive rules you have to follow. Not at all. It's better to think of them as practical, step-by-step processes for how creation actually works. They're tools you can learn to use to consciously make your life better. A perfect example of this is the law of creation. Let's say you want to build a house. Okay, where does it start? It starts with an idea, right? A little spark. Then that idea sparks a thought, and you start to dream about it, imagine what it'll look like. Then comes the plan. You get the blueprints drawn up. And finally, the most important part, you take action. You actually start building. And here's the key insight. If you stop at any of those first 3 steps, guess what? The house never, ever gets built. You have to see the process all the way through. All right, so we've got the keys, right? We have the rays and the laws. But how do we actually use them? Well, that's what brings us to the path of practice. And one of the most fundamental practices you can start with is called the law of silence. I mean, think about it. Our minds are just constantly bombarded with noise, both from the outside world and from our own inner chatter. It's this nonstop monologue that just keeps us feeling agitated. So the law of silence is simply the practice of quieting that down, of turning down the volume so we can reconnect with our true peaceful nature at the source. So how do you actually practice this? It's surprisingly simple. The suggestion is to try meditating twice a day, and it can be for just 5 minutes. You don't need some complex mystical technique. The whole secret is just paying attention to your breath. That's it. Your breath is described as being the doorway to life itself. Okay, another really critical practice is forgiveness. Because if we want to manifest our dreams, if we want to create the life we really want, we first have to do some cleanup. We've got to clear out all those old negative patterns. And the metaphor for this is just perfect. It's like pulling weeds from a garden. By forgiving ourselves and forgiving others for all those past hurts, we're essentially clearing the soil of our unconscious mind. And that makes space for new, beautiful, positive things to finally grow. So when you start to combine these tools, the laws, with these practices, that's when a really profound transformation can begin. That's when we start the journey of becoming a true co-creator. Because ultimately, this whole thing, it's about empowerment. It's about making a conscious choice to shift, to stop being that leaf in the wind, that reactive being, and step into the role of the empowered co-creator, the one who takes responsibility and actively shapes their own destiny. And what does that life even look like? Well, living as a co-creator means you're living in harmony with the universe. It means you start to experience this true, deep sense of peace, the kind that doesn't just disappear when things get tough. And it means you're finally fully embodying those divine qualities, like love and patience and compassion that have been your birthright all along. So there you have it. We've seen this clear path laid out for us, from understanding our own forgotten nature to using these practical keys to unlock it. It's all a journey that goes inward. Which really just leaves one final question for you. The secrets of the universe, they all exist inside. Have you opened the door?